Oh, you hear that? It's time for some fun. Alrighty. So, we have Ran, Mercedes, and Landy, but then we're fighting that with Edward Elric, Unbound Arowell, and Roana. So, the goal here is, hey, let's hope we don't get 15%ed. We didn't, so we had one debuff that was on Ed. This is going to shoot him up, also going to hit the Landy, strip her stealth because it was a hit, and then because of that, we'll just use this opportunity to S3, kill the Landy, Shazam! The time-sensitive situation is already taken care of. So now all you have to deal with is Mercedes, and with Mercedes, I mean, hey, just like any and all hits will really do. In all honesty, I really did the wrong call by using Arowell's S3 on Mercedes. I really had no reason to do that. If there was anyone to use it on, it would have really been Ran. But hey, whatever. Like, there's really nothing that this team can do to you now at this point. Like, I'm already well fortified with defense. I have Roana just in case there's any and all magic for friends. I have counter on Roana. Her counter's proccing like crazy. And we've already killed Mercedes once. So, now all we gotta do, just go into her again, and now all we have left is Ran. And this is, yeah, it's a Sword of Summer Twilight Ran, but he's not doing enough damage to actually really be a threat. Especially if you have some form of damage mitigation, or in this case, damage sharing with Arowell. So with that, Edward's just free to take any and all hits, and everything's just good to go. Just like so. Ain't that pretty? So, the next fight we're going to be fighting is basically your typical standard Conqueror, Lilias, Senya, Choux. But the big thing that I'm going to do here into this is instead of utilizing like Roana, Shadow Knight Pyllis, and then like Arunka like I usually do, I just want to try and get away from that. I want to just find more ways to fight this. So I didn't have my my Lone Crescent Bellona built at the moment because I'm still kind of messing with her gear. I'm thinking about like either putting her on a destruction set or putting her on some kind of like injury set like she has been. I'm just a little bit iffy on that going into Choux because it's not enough damage to kill and it's not enough injury to like really cripple her yet. So ultimately I decided to go with Alencia, Destina, and Shadow Knight Pyllis. And the biggest reason why I went with this is the biggest reason why I usually don't use Alencia into the dreaded Senya Choux comp is because anytime like Alencia starts to get focused by Senya, you just start to get provoke locked, you get blind debuff, you get like just all kinds of bad shit happens. But if you go in with any particular cleanser, like any cleanser, you can really make it work with any cleanser that you wish. Then suddenly, oh shit, now you can strip. And Shazam. So the whole team is completely stripped. Now that Choux is completely free to go into with Alencia. So, hey, like we've said, with injury Alencia, as soon as you go into like any unit pretty much 2 times, you pretty much have max injury on the unit. And as soon as you really have a max injury on Choux, in all honesty, you can ignore her, but because I'm doing like so much damage right here, I'm just like, oh, okay, well, hey, the next chance I even get a chance to really go into her, it's going to end her. And I go for it, but she's still the highest HP, so she gets that barrier from Conqueror Lilias. And also because of this right here, I just take this opportunity to use Destina's S3, you know, just get a little bit more heals. I'm not expecting I'm going to die. Like, the main person who's taking all the hits is going to be Shadow Knight Pyllis. Yeah, Alencia might take a hit here and there from Senya, but we should still be okay. Like, that's the number one thing that's like the worst thing about fighting Senya, is your Alencia might be on the low side of the HP, especially if you deal with Choux really, really quickly. Like, right here, that's only doing like a little under 4k. And yeah, as soon as I just go into Choux one more time, she's gone. So, now that we've dealt with Choux, essentially the whole fight's over. However, not really, because like the big thing that makes like this a complete super joke is anytime you're using like Roana, you're dealing with so many dual attacks and counter attacks and things like that. Your HP just straight up never moves from Bull. But because I'm using Destina, there are still things that can factor into me getting killed. As a matter of fact, a few errors just on my part come in. Like for example, right here, I'm getting ready to get S3'd by Senya again. So I have blind on my Alencia right now, and I didn't have any means of cleansing yet. So, okay. I'll just go into it, and I wasn't even thinking about this. Wasn't even thinking about it. And, of course, who do we miss? Alencia! And so, like, that's just extra nonsensical damage that's just going into Alencia for next to no reason. And you're about to see probably the funniest thing that happens in the whole fight, but because we have Destina, we're going to be okay. So, like, Alencia looking pretty bad right now, but as soon as I get, like, any particular heal on her, we're good to go. Oh, hey, looky there, that's a dual attack. Cool, I just killed myself with reflect damage. Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. Thankfully, we have Destina with us, and we also have, like, regen on her S2, so, like, hey... And we have Guardian Ice Crystals, so, like, we're not dying. Like, it's not happening. Sure, Roana is safer, in the sense, because of, like, all the extra healing you get from Vigilant Eye, but, like, Destina still really, really works. So, like, right here, I could, in all honesty, end this fight, just with Shadow Knight Pyllis, because of Rocket Punch that she has. Rocket Punch is just such a crazy artifact. If you guys have any Rocket Punches and you haven't, like, invested in them, like, it's 100% worth it to bottle. And guess what? You don't even need to bottle it, because it's just a proc to do more damage. So, like, if you want more consistency in your damage, yeah, go for it there. And hey, we had our S3 on Destina, we were able to revive Alencia, and that Conqueror Lilias is only going to go into Shadow Knight Pyllis, so hey, this is free. And we are good to go. I think like one more good hit into the Conqueror Lilias, probably with Alencia or whoever, and we're good to go. And that is the end of the first round. It was probably the longest portion, but hey, whatevs. Anything to really just get through this horrible cancer comp.
The light will always win.
That's not true, Destina. Sometimes the light gets fucked. But anyway, right here we're fighting Apocalypse Ravi, Mercedes, and Bloodblade Karin. You don't see Bloodblade Karin very often, but they all pretty much function the exact same way. They're slow as shit, they have ER, and you just kind of like go into them and do whatever you wish. So what I decide to do is like, okay, we're not utilizing Roana into Mercedes, but thankfully it's not too big of a deal because I have Doris and Destina with me. So we have our heal bot that's going to give us defense buff, which is just going to help in general because we're essentially fighting some kind of like cleave shit. Like that's what BBK is there for. And there's Mercedes doing her annoying shit. But okay, she already did her magic for friends, so no big deal. And that is a counter Apocalypse Ravi. I guess they're still around, yo. But, like, right there, that was probably the best hit that BBK could really do. And after we've already survived it, we can blow our load on Destina with a big heal. Because as long as we just don't get lower than that, we're fine. And which we've already dealt with this. So, like, the next chance that I get with Illynav, I'm just going to straight up kill the BBK. And then, like, the next few other turns that I get, like I said, you can work with this with Roana if you wanted to. It would work just fine because there's a lot of, like, different counterattacks here. But, like, you're only dealing with one countering kind of unit, and that's Mercedes. So I didn't see the value to bring Roana up here, even though I normally never bring like other healers into Mercedes. I guess I probably fight some. I'm pretty sure I fight Belian on the next fight, and that's why I brought Roana on the bottom. But either way, hey, we killed Mercedes once. She's already pretty much screwed because, like, God, anytime you kill Mercedes once and she has like a bunch of injury on her like this, well, actually, I believe that was a that's a lifesteal set on the Mercedes. Not very often that you see one of those because she didn't feel that thick. But, like, hey, I can understand, like, the incentive of wanting to keep something like that. But, hey, Mercedes is down. The Apocalypse Ravi is at pretty much max injury. And all I have to do is just soul burn an S2. She dead. Shazam. Y'all ready to see Motorcycle Man? So, this was something that was really, really interesting that I wanted to do. Just because I saw Conqueror Lilias, I saw Belian, and then Celine for whatever reason. So Celine's not really gonna it's not gonna affect me too much, but we should have so many AoEs going into Krau that we should almost always get his S3 back. Finally really fulfilling the role that I wanted to have for Last Rider Krau for so damn long, which was, it's a counter to Belian specifically. And it really feels like it works right here. Especially because this Belian is an injury Belian, the one thing that can really stop Last Rider Krau. So take a good look at all this, because all of the AoEs that go into me, and because I'm utilizing Roana, I've also got a barrier. So she's not able to break through the initial barrier. And because I'm also rocking like Crown of Glory, I get even more like defense options off of AoEs. So right there, I'm already one turn away from my S3 again. So I'm able to keep cycling the immunity buff. And I also brought Fallen Cece here just for another opportunity of getting skill nulls. Anything in particular. It's not super useful because you're dealing with AoEs from Belian, so the skill null goes away immediately. But do keep in mind very closely of how much injury my Krau has at all times. He still hasn't been injured yet, which is very, very promising. Because that was like the one big thing that I was scared about using Last Rider Krau into Belian with. But when I'm using Last Rider Krau with Roana, especially in this particular format, because if you ever have Last Rider Krau in the back row with Roana, then you will always get the barrier if everybody's at full HP. Like, it will always go to him. So you can control who gets the barrier. And then, like, anytime you get hit by some, like, little baby, like, AoE attack, in this particular situation, we're fighting Conqueror, Lilias, and Belian. This is just super fodder, because Roana's there, Roana boosts the team, and you gain a barrier from getting hit with an AoE attack with Last Rider Krau, and then you also get a heal with Roana. Now, straight up, if this was not an injury Belian, this is 100% free. Like, period. But the fact that this is an injury Belian, and I've still, like, yeah, there's a little bit of injury on there now, but there's almost none. And I'm just building up S3 after S3 after S3 on Krau. It feels amazing. Like, right here, I think he has his S3 yet again, because Belian procced her S1, S2. But this is, like, the other thing that's just amazing about this. You're cycling through the CR bar so fast because of Roana and all the extra attacks that are happening. Even though this is an injury Belian, she's not breaking through the barriers really hard. Like, she's breaking through it on Fallen Cece, so you can see, like, yeah, she's got lots of injury on her, but Krau almost always had a big barrier on him at almost all times. And he just wasn't affected by the Belian injury. Fucking incredible. Now, this was kind of weird. So there was Fallen CC, Rimuru, and a BBK. The big thing in particular that's super weird about this is this whole team is tanky. This team is not, like, damaging, period. So as soon as this right here happened, I thought I was screwed. Thankfully, I did do what I did. So now that Arunka may be death broken from the Rimuru S3 that went into Krau, she still has death buff. So that means you're essentially taking neutral damage. So even though we're taking neutral damage, I really thought at this particular moment I was screwed. I thought I was going to get killed by the BBK. Thankfully, that doesn't happen. And the other reason why, like, I also kept my wow, I'm for blanking right now. Desert Jewel Basar DJB. The reason why I kept his S3 available is because anytime he has his S3 available, he actually, like, has damage mitigation. I think it reduces the amount of damage like a crit does on him. I'm not 100% sure on that, but he does have some form of damage mitigation that's on him. And right there was one other mistake that I made. I should have just burned with a Arunka to just kill the BBK. Now I just have to deal with her, like, for one more turn. And in fact, I take a little bit too much damage right here, because, like, now I'm not doing enough to break through the barrier and kill her. Which, yeah, sucks. So then I was just like, okay, fuck this shit. I'm just gonna horse and kill this BBK, because then as soon as I kill her, I have nothing to worry about in terms of like anything that this team can do to me. Because yeah, there is Rimuru, but straight up, he's about to get nuked, like right here. God, that barrier inversion is sick. And then, like right here, I'll just use this turn, kill Rimuru. And now all we have left is Fallen Cece, and the next turn that Arunka gets, hey, GG, because I'm going to use S3 and I'm just going to kill you. Now, I could have used S3 there, but then, like, it wouldn't have worked. So, like, this way, now she has a barrier, and I can use Arunka's S3, do big damage, and this will kill.
I'll remove any trace of you.
Fun, fun, fun. Now, this is Winter, Unbound Knight Arowell, and Belian. So I went into this thinking, like, okay, so we should see, like, a lot of shenanigans from Belian. I do not know if this is an injury or a counter. Spoiler alert, it's actually counter. But because I don't know yet, I'm just going to go into her non-stop until I see whatever happens. Because the biggest thing that you're looking for here is I'm looking for any and all Elbrus procs, because I'm going to be dealing with a lot of AoE attacks going into me. But the biggest real threat, like right here, that was a counter, but I couldn't tell if that was an Elbrus or a regular counter. But I happened to notice, just from the damage that hit me, oh cool, I don't see any injury. So that essentially means that this fight is 100% free. Now, the Winter is rocking an absurd amount of effectiveness. So that is actually somewhat of a threat, because she could take my Roana out of the game. But the other cool thing to note is Roana, being the super hyper-based healer that she is, she can heal you even if she's stunned or slept, because that's how her S2 works. Just right here, this is going to heal, even though she's stunned. Oh cool, I still got heals. Wow, what a cool and fair and balanced character. But either way, so whenever you're fighting this kind of situation, you would normally think, oh yeah, just go into the Belian non-stop. So even if this was an injury Belian, the right thing to do is to, honest to God, go into the Unbound Knight Arowell first. Because the sheer amount of, like, damage sharing that she does makes it really, really hard to build up, like, actual good injury on a unit. That's like the biggest thing I've really noticed. So if you're ever dealing with Unbound Knight Arowell and Belian, I highly recommend killing the Unbound Knight Arowell first and then start working on the Belian. And this right here was a mistake on my part. I was like talking to a friend of mine while I was doing this, and he was one of the other guys who also like gave me the recommendations for like units to use, just for fun, because I was visiting him. But like either way, that was a mistake I made. But hey, guess what? It's still not an issue, because that Winter can't do enough damage to actually kill my Roana. And as long as I don't use another non-attack skill, she straight up isn't going to get anywhere close to killing her. And by this point, I can just go into Belian, just keep hitting her non-stop with stuff. Like, right here, that kills her. And then the next chance that Illynav gets, we just go into Winter, and that is it. Woo! And that, as they say, is that. So yeah, this was a pretty fun Guild War. Mainly just because I didn't fight nothing but Conqueror, Lilias, Senya, Choux. Which is like... That's what sucks about that comp, man, is that it's really not that scary. It's really boring to fight. Because, like, the biggest threat is, hey, if you have any means of just, like, dealing with Choux, like, really, really quickly, and then if you just have, like, a cleanse or just any kind of, like, thick answers to Senya, then you're good as gold. And that's how you fight it. That's the general strategy, which is why I usually always go into those comps with, like, really, really thick units. Like, my number one go-to anytime I fight Conqueror, Lilias, Senya, Choux is Shadow Knight, Pyllis, Roana, and then Arunka. And even if Arunka were to die, which it can happen, Choux can go absolutely fucking batshit fucking crazy, and the RNG gods just straight up say you can't win. Like, I mean, that can happen. It's just very, very unlikely to happen. But, like, yeah. even if like it does get a little nuts, yeah, you can still totally win with that team, which is why it's probably my favorite team, because it just feels extremely consistent to go into that cancer. But either way, to any of y'all who wished me to have a good, wonderful weekend, hey, thank you very much for the wonderful well wishes for the weekend. I absolutely needed it. I just had to get out of town, get away from everybody, and just chill out. That's all I needed. You guys know how it is. Sometimes you just feel like, I gotta get away from everybody. But hey, I hope you guys like that. If you liked this video, please go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to see more of my content, go on ahead and hit subscribe. Later.